My name is Neil Stern. I've been given the privilege of welcoming you to the first official Chicago Photographic Society Spotlight meeting. As you see, we've got all kinds of interesting stuff here. We've got tables galore. We've got representatives from Calumet. We have food in the back. Definitely feel free to partake. And by all means, introduce yourself to people. I mean, we're all here. We might as well know each other, right? Okay. We've also got some special prizes, some other surprises that I don't even know about that GoCon has kept sealed in a hermetically sealed jar under Funk and Wagnall's porch. And of course, a very special guest speaker. Everyone in this room is on a photographic journey of some kind. And the one thing we all have in common is that our journeys have all led us into this room at the same time. For my part, less than 4 years ago, I was a lawyer with a reasonably successful law practice, but I wanted something more, so against the advice of pretty much everybody I talked to, I quit my job and opened a photography studio. I was muddling along okay for a couple of years until I had the pleasure of meeting GoCon in Las Vegas last year at Skip Summer School. I happened to have my shirt off at the time, but if you want to know the story behind that, you'll have to get a couple of drinks into me first. But this didn't stay in Vegas. But what immediately struck me about GoCon was that he was espousing an idea that I had had for a while, but had not really successfully articulated, which was that when I first got into photography, I kept having this sense that I was in this alone, and I had to do everything by myself. And I found that was very common among a lot of photographers, that if you were a professional photographer, you were afraid to talk to other professional photographers because maybe they'll steal your ideas or steal your clients. If you're an amateur photographer, you're intimidated by the professionals. If you're a new photographer, you're intimidated by the more experienced people. If you're more experienced photographers, are intimidated by the new people who had all kinds of fresh ideas and had better understanding of all the technology. So the end result is nobody's talking to anybody else. Everyone's feeling like they had to be, kind of this this lone wolf. But GoCon wasn't like that at all. He was arguing something that I believed in, which is that he wanted to help people. He just wanted to help people become better photographers, and he wasn't asking anything in return other than that they too help people as well. Now GoCon's an interesting guy. I'll let him tell you more of his story. I don't want to steal his thunder, but suffice it to say that after he moved here from Turkey and originally landed in Minnesota, he ended up in Chicago. But after becoming as successful as he had become, and that continues to grow, of course, and justifiably so, he started getting this idea that he wanted to create some kind of forum where other photographers could learn how to avoid some of the bumps in the road that he'd encountered along the way. So in 2009, he decided to put together a group that would allow people to do that. And that's the group that eventually came to be what is now CPS. And the group's defining principle was, and still is, that we're all in this together. If you help people, if you teach people, you not only help them, but you also help yourself. It's like the little pick a penny, leave a penny thing that you see. You drop a penny in if you have one, and then you take one out later, and everybody does that. Everyone's better off. And you learn by teaching, and we all benefit by creating a community where sharing, helping, and learning is just a fundamental part of our DNA. And so GoCon welcomed into this group basically everybody. Didn't matter whether they were new to photography or highly experienced, whether they were using $10,000 Leicas or point-and-shoot cameras or even iPhones to do their photography. He didn't care. He just wanted to help people. He put himself out there in an effort to help those people, and then slowly but surely he started drawing more experienced people into his orbit and encouraging them to do the same thing, encouraging them to put themselves out there and help people as well. So You know, I've spent a lot of time around GoCon in the past year, and I can honestly say that he has never bragged or tried to take credit for what he's done for others. And it's amazing because he's really done so much for so many people, including for me. So I'm very flattered that he gave me the honor of introducing him tonight, and I'm excited to see what a big crowd we have. So with no further ado, I give you the one and only Gökhan Kukurova.
I was going to say I'm shaky. Seriously, I've done this a couple of times and I'm still shaky. Once I was at a wedding and the bride was having problems. She's like, I'm going to cry so much, I won't be able to do anything. And her sister said, when you think that you're going to cry, you say pigeon poop. So pigeon poop, pigeon poop, pigeon poop. All right, Neil. Thank you. Louder? How about now? Can you hear me now? How about now? How about now? Yeah. All right. Test. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to hold this. How about that? Anyway, since I'm not gonna be giving a Leica M9, I think I can fold this. Anyways, one very quick announcement I'm gonna have to make is that there is no other word that would describe how proud I am, because it's a full house and love you guys. Anyway, you can tell I'm very shaky. I tried to prepare a speech and I cried 4 times. I said, you know what, I'm gonna go without it. That's why Neil came in for help. Yeah, it's been a little less than 4 years and we are in bigger and better shape. As of today, almost 1,400 members at 31 countries. And these are not just people who take pictures, these are people who love taking pictures and help everybody else around them while they do that. So I brought in 4 great photographers as admins to the group recently to help me out to get these things bigger and better. But it wasn't just me coming up with ideas, it was just people around me who inspired me to put things together. Recently we turned this group into a nonprofit organization, although we are not yet as 501c3, which takes a lot of money and time, but we are registered general nonprofit. And as you all know, if you haven't, you will in 2 seconds, that I am not shy at all. As soon as our website is live and up, I will ask for your donations. Donations could be $1 or $500. I think $500 will get you spend 2 hours with me. Nothing in that fashion. So we talk photography and you pay the bill. Anyway, everything we put together here, every single dime we can raise together will be spent back on you, because spotlight meetings are different in a way that we're going to have international speakers like today, but some of them are not going to be able to fly to Chicago for a 90-minute speech. So we're going to have them in a conference room via Skype. So you will be able to see him or her, and they will be able to see you. We're going to meet last Thursdays of each month, unless otherwise noted. Sometimes because of national holidays, we're going to change that. One of the reasons that we're going to do Thursdays, that is kind of a selfish explanation, but everybody knows how much I love the smug meetings, and they're either Monday or Tuesday, so I don't want to miss them. So we're going to have to do the spotlight meetings on Thursdays. I myself got a lot from smug meetings and definitely don't want to miss him. So if you do not know anything about him, the guy behind the camera runs him in Chicago, and he did help me a lot with my career and being a good brother. As you all know, we have a very special speaker here tonight after me. What makes him special? Well, yes, we all know that he's a great photographer, but he's not the only great photographer I know. But what makes him special is that I only send him a very short message if he could spare time and come and speak to you guys. And the answer was literally, it's in my phone, I'm not going to show it to you, but it was just anything I could do to help. And that's what I expected, and that's what I expect from every one of you. Some of you are probably shooting with plastic cameras, which was my first camera was not a Leica M7, it was a Walgreens disposable color film plastic camera. So what we have done last 3 years was only one simple thing, that we gave each other a helping hand. That's it, nothing more. Most of you are close to me as people, friends I grew up with back in Turkey. We had so much fun, everybody knows that. I see some smiles. Yes, Neil did take his shirt off when I first met him. That was a true story. Anyways, as we go bigger and bigger, we have a few people who really work behind the scenes and help me out to run this thing. I cannot appreciate them enough. I will ask them to come up in a few seconds. Andres, put that down in like 10 seconds. Anyways, all right. So, where is Nima? Okay, as Neil mentioned, that I have some dirty secret for tonight, and I'm gonna bring it up soon. Okay. All right. My wife is here. Where are you at? Okay. She knows I put at least 200, 300 hours just to put this hour and a half, 2-hour program together. And with my friends here, Neil, Andres, Dan, Nima, Bill over there, we put combined probably 1,000 hours. So as the group admins, they get something from me. I know that we couldn't get enough. Okay, Neil, Nima, Andres, Tony, where are you? Come up here, man. Yes? Yeah, there, yeah. Come up, come up, come up, come up, come up. There you go. There you go. All right. So we're not always this emotional, but we don't have this big of events or moments every day. We usually have a lot of fun, or some fancy liquors that Andres knows, and have a lot of fun. But I wanted to give these 4 right here something very small, but definitely from my heart, all right? So as you all know, we did not get enough gold medals in London. Testimonial, that's right. Chocolate? Yeah, you eat them after the meeting. All right. You don't eat them now. Okay, can you take them out? There you go. I gotta put them on for you. Yep, you just deserve it. I don't know what I would do without this guy, especially this guy. All right, and You are a winner. Thank you so much. All right, now. All right, I gotta hurry up. There are a few people in this room who really put their own time and put up with my emails, text messages, Facebook messages, and phone calls, walked out of their houses, even in snow, to do something for their community, give back to kids, high school kids, underprivileged kids, and in one way or another, the people I'm going to call here, they have done something back for other people in this community, all right? So I wanted to show a little bit of appreciation for them, and I prepared something little just for them. Let's see who is the first person who comes out here. All right, really? I wasn't planning that, but Mia Gallardo. Yes. I'm gonna save this one for the last. This one for the last, too. She's not here. She's not here. There you go. Okay, this one especially, this person here wasn't able to put so much into this group, but on top of her full-time photography business, she helps other people in photography on her own, and I really think she is one of the heroes, I will say, in Chicago. It's my honor to call Angie Garbo. I know you didn't know this.
Crazy.
Thank you. She's the Vice President of Chicago Photography Center. This one, I know there will be some voices. Carlos Bruno. Thank you. Tracy, in this. Yes, please. Heck yeah. Thank you. That's the least I could do, seriously. Alyssa, where are you? Alyssa. Annette. Annette Castro, where are you? Thank you. I promise, only a few left. This one has to have, okay. Then Jin. You're working, you're not working, you're always working. Thank you, brother. And then goes to the corner. She's not here. All right, we're gonna have to mail this. I'm still shaking. Okay. Bill Skinner. All right, I think I'm going to have to give this one to you too. This is for Calumet.
Oh, thank you.
Since the day one, They've been supporting any programs put together. And they supported so much that I had to make a video to really tell people that I don't work for Calumet. They really thought that I would.
He really doesn't, I swear.
But it's been unconditional love and support, so I can't thank you enough for that.
You're welcome.
Since we talked about Calumet, next month we're not going to be in this room. September 27th, we're going to be at Calumet, Chicago for our next program. And the last one goes to someone very special. This is on my blog, but I'm not going to let you go over there. I moved to Chicago from Minneapolis to marry that woman over there. Woo! And when pigeon poop. Pigeon poop. Anyway.
Pigeon.
This one goes to Michael because he welcomed me to his company and helped me make money from my camera. So, no more pigeon poop. We have one more super special, very unique guest. She just came from Guatemala this morning. Yes, I went to the airport and picked her up, and I wanted to give her something from Chicago. Yes, you are. And don't go anywhere. When I was driving here, I remember something. I came up with an idea because she's from Guatemala and she's involved in a local community over there. And I would ask if you could give this to a photographer in Guatemala from Chicago. No. So I'm going to end this really quick. You're looking at me. I made that announcement. Your donations are not tax deductible. Sam Barr, welcome. Hey. Love you, man. Okay. I'm going to turn the lights off, Andres. Yeah. And then show you a couple of pictures, and then I'm going to introduce someone very special. All right, let's do it. September 24th last year, I was photographing a wedding for George Street Photo and Video. And you all know how much I believe in networking. And I happen to know the DJ. And that DJ happened to know another DJ who text messaged him with some bad news. A wedding photographer in Chicago had a fatal heart attack and passed away. And when I was preparing this, I thought about her last night, 2:30 in the morning. I was thinking about this 59-year-old wedding photographer who passed away. And I wanted to add this design by Tony, and I just thought that she is a star. That's all I could come up with. Go back. Go back. Let's go back. Yeah. Yeah, Bill paid me a lot to keep it up there like that. There you go. Okay. I put this here on purpose because they are the official sponsor of Spotlight meetings. But as I said earlier, we've been more than friends over the years, and any company, any name can come and be sponsor of this group if we believe that their work ethics are through the roof, and you will keep the topics, what we're going to talk about, what we're not going to talk about, who are going to be the speakers. So they trusted me with all that. And we're not going to keep this program just about wedding photography. Spotlight meetings are going to be about nature photography, landscape photography, wildlife, and I know Jerry's going to be very happy about that. Photojournalism, street photography, and all. We're going to bring speakers online or in person here, and we're going to do Q&As. We're going to put them under the spotlight. That's how the name came. With our sponsors' help, we do have some really good programs, including we're going to start doing Photographer of the Year. All right? And we already have a budget for that, thanks to Michael. We do have a sponsorship, and we have a budget for a good speaker lineup and Photographer of the Year. My first thoughts were whoever becomes the Photographer of the Year in our group will get to see their favorite photographer in the world, all right? Take a workshop from that person, whether it's Jerry Guionis, Bob Davis, Clyde Butcher, you name it. Whatever their profession, their branch is, their photography is about. Depending on our budget, we will definitely do that. So, that's one important thing that I will ask you to give me your next paycheck. All right, but definitely, this is all built for you, and be as generous as possible. Another quick note, we're gonna meet here most of the time, but keep in touch with me through Facebook, through personal mail, and do not go somewhere else when we have meetings. I would feel terrible about that. We have a great pool of photographers here, and some of them actually have their day job, working attorneys, cooks, accountants, videographers, doctors. We have a lot of people from different backgrounds, different experience levels. They all pour something into this group. And last 4 years, the only thing I paid the most attention to was ego. I am known as a very mellow and nice guy. You can ask her, I am. But that's one thing I cannot put up with, and that's the only thing we kept out of our group. So I don't have a habit of asking if you could do this. I say, this is what you're doing. And I asked Neil, Nima, Andres, and Tony that I need them to do something, and seriously, it's like great minds think alike. They're like, you got it, man. That is what CPS is. So, here's Neil. Okay, I talked about this guy, mellow, very nice, whatever. So, if I wanna talk about Neil, I'll just tell you this. I already formulated it. Take this guy, multiply by 16. That's right there. Nima over there, That's a different story. Because of the projection, you can't see really well, but on the computer screen you can see he's actually looking somewhere around here, something. He's about to jump on somebody. But how about this guy? You know why he's here? Why he's on board? If the Facebook group wall is clean and everybody's so respectful and nice and helpful, it's because of him. They're so afraid of him.
Big club.
Yes. So this wasn't enough. We needed some more help. And Tony, I did this without asking you last night. Sorry, you're gonna have to put up with me. I added this wonderful and creative person to the. Let's go back here. All right. There you go. Is it? I should probably take this right here. Take this out. And press. Okay. I will have to show that picture. Okay, computer shows it.
Should have used the PC.
I really handpicked the next image. I really handpicked the next image. It worked. I pointed it.
Up. Yeah, bounce like up center.
It's supposed to be. Bounce or flash.
Hey, watch where you're pointing at.
Okay. Okay, we'll show you online. We'll show you online because we're taking too long. Oh, hold on that. Come back. All right, there you go. That's Tony. And he's our latest generation admin. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, everybody knows this, right? And where's Sam Barr? Sam Barr, can you raise your hand?
Yeah, right call.
There you go. Sam Barr, I love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
All right. So, on a very cold Chicago winter afternoon, we were playing with our off-camera flashes and just us being the kid in the toy store. And now we can go to the next slide. This is what we did. Yeah. But this, yes, it is a very funny image. And Kevin is here too. Matt is not. But that's who we are. We raise the flag, raise the torch, raise everything we grab. So, the only thing I will tell you guys before I introduce Bob Davis, when I first put my foot on ground in United States, 1998, I had a small backpack and less than 50 bucks in my pocket. Nothing matters more than giving back to your community. Nothing really matters more than life itself, money, fame, the car you drive, whatever. It's all people. Really, it's all the people surround you. Your family, your friends, your peers, and in my early career, film days, there were no millions of blogs, websites that I could learn from. It was the people at National Camera Exchange in Minnesota, the local camera store people, who really helped me out and taught me how to operate a very entry-level camera. They took their time and they didn't force me to buy anything. It was just a human element. And that's why you're here, because when you already know this, you're part of this. But I will ask you to give back to each other, make new friends, and do something good without expecting anything back. That's all I ask, that's all I try to do, and I am very thankful that you're here. I know by connecting and uniting, you cannot change the world. I know we can't do that, but heck yeah, we can make a difference. So I know, because I left my notes at home, I forgot a few things, whatever. I apologize if I did forget to mention anybody in the room. Without further ado, I will invite Bob Davis.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm always, humbled when people that are my peers want to hear something that I have to say. We all, like Okan says, we're all part of a community, and I'm a firm believer in everybody contributing and helping one another, because we're all different. We all see with a different eye. So I could share with you everything that's in my head, but I have no fear that you'll take business away from me because I'm not selling photography. And I don't think any one of us in here, should be selling photography. I think you should be selling or promoting or offering what's unique and different for you. And whether you photograph weddings, commercial, landscape, anything of the like, your vision is different from everybody else in this room. So be open, share, because if we raise the level of the craft and raise the level of the community, we'll stop devaluing what we do. Ever since digital has come to age, a lot of people run into this industry because, face it, technology has made the barrier to entry into this industry the lowest it's ever been. The green mode on a camera today in technology with computers and Photoshop will get you 90% there if you shoot enough frames. There's an awful lot of people that I see spray and pray, and then they're trying to fix it later in the edit or in Photoshop or Lightroom or anything else. Right? When I started out, it was film. It was color slide film. It was black and white film. It was color negative film. And you had to know what to do when. You couldn't rely on the technology, right? So get off of the green box, so to speak, and really own your craft. Really own your creative vision and style, and connect with people that way. And I believe if we could keep raising the level of awareness and the craft of people that enter this industry, we won't give it away. Meaning, don't shoot someone's wedding for 8 hours and give them everything for $500 because you're just devaluing what you do. You're not going to hurt me because my customer is not that customer. But we have to educate everybody who comes to us for photography that quality takes time. You're not Sears. You've invested a lot of money in your equipment. You're not producing mass amounts of volume to make a little off of a lot. You're trying to make a living. You're trying to pay your bills. Don't do this for fun. I mean, yes, it is fun. I've never worked a day in my life in the past 20 plus years because I enjoy what I do. But it is hard work and it is fun. So we're going to switch out the computers, hopefully. And I'll share anything with you. We could do a Q&A. Anything and everything. I could share some of my lighting techniques. One thing that I was thinking about sharing with you guys is a second photographer that I regularly shoot with. She's feeling a bit anxious lately, and she's rushing through the shoot, and she's missing her color, right? The technology you have in your hands today, you have a flash meter, a color meter, everything at your disposal for you to get that image 99% correct in camera. That will cut down a tremendous amount of back-end work. All you'll be looking for are those golden moments. You won't have to be fixing exposure and color and batch processing and really getting frustrated. So I could share with you, some of the techniques I do to get near perfect color in camera. It's whatever you guys want. I'm here for you. Yes?
Do you use anything like first of all, do you use custom white balance when
No.
you shoot? You always use auto?
No. I use everything.
Okay.
right? I use everything in the dictate. It's a tool that's at your disposal, and I use everything from picture styles to color space to get the image that I want in the scenario I am. I'll share with you why I don't use a custom white balance. Is I photograph people. Primarily 99% of everything I do involves people. You being a woman of color would appreciate this. That if I photograph you in a fluorescent environment and I use a custom white balance, you're gonna look terrible. You're not gonna have any color in your skin because what it's doing is it's averaging out everything else. My idea of near perfect color is a good flesh tone, and that's what I go for. Custom white balances are awesome for architecture, landscape, things like that, but when it involves people, it's been my experience, both with Canon and Nikon, that they make people look cold and pasty, right? And I want to go for, what? Reaffirming something? No, but I do go after color, okay? Your cameras today have a built-in color meter, right? So if you shoot an image and you hit the info button, you're going to get two values. You're going to get an exposure value histogram, which is luminance. You push it one more time, you're going to get the RGB value, which is red, green, and blue, right? So a histogram, just we'll review it, because I believe in practicing the basics all the time. The left is 0. Okay, there's nothing less than 0, right? So if you way overexpose and you shoot to the right, sometimes that's the scenario, that's fine. You're not gonna have any details in your blacks, right? If there's no information touching to the left side of the histogram. There is no perfect histogram in the real world. In the studio, sure. In the real world, there is not. So I look for information touching the left and touching the right, okay? 90% of the time. Right being your highlights, a value of 255. Center is your midtones, okay? And it's also good to know that that histogram you're looking at is only representative of the JPEG preview on the back of your camera. It's not the raw file. Your camera cannot render a raw file, it's too much information. So if you get a really excellent JPEG preview, your raw is gonna be that much better. You're gonna have that much more information, that much more dynamic range, okay? So even when you're putting your images into Lightroom, Photo Mechanic, Aperture, the first image you see is a JPEG preview. And then you may watch for a second in Lightroom or Aperture, and then it changes. What happens then is it's rendering the raw file by the decode that those applications deem the recipe for that image. They're all going to be slightly different. You'll even see the histogram shift because there is more dynamic range and more information in a raw file, right? So getting back to the histogram, you have the RGB value, red, green, and blue. Anything too much to the right means you have a lot of it. So if your red channel is leaning more to the right than the green and blue, meaning your image is going to be overly warm. More often than not, we shoot in tungsten environments. And even a lot of the FLB bulbs today that they screw in, their color temperature is more tungsten than it is fluorescent. Some of them, you can't even figure out what the color is, but it leans a little bit more towards tungsten. So I check my RGB value in every scene that I am photographing in. And then I dial in my color correctly. 99% of the time, I will use Kelvin, because Kelvin is a precise measurement of color that I can dial in. Now Kelvin is kind of out the window once you get into a fluorescent lighting scenario, because fluorescents have a tint to them, right? A greenish tint. So Kelvin is only on the spectrum between warm and cool, from 2,700 degrees Kelvin, which is it's colder than tungsten, it's blue, on up to 10,000 degrees Kelvin, which you can make anything look like it's sunset. It makes the file very, very, very warm. So if I'm in a scenario, I use my camera to pull Polaroid, so to speak, right? So what I do is I put the camera in daylight, because that's going to be a neutral point, 5,200 degrees Kelvin. Not auto white, because if I try and do this analysis in auto white, it's filtering out some of the color, and I don't get an accurate idea of what the color is in the room. This is a dirty light room. What I mean dirty light is we have some tungsten light, we have LEDs, we have fluorescence, you have all kinds of light here. You can only color correct or match for the predominant light source. So that's what you have to pick, and that's why I go for a flesh tone. So by taking a Polaroid, I shoot a frame at the proper exposure in daylight white balance. I look at the image. If it's green, I know we're in the fluorescent setting. If it's warm, I know we're in the tungsten setting. If it's right on, we got a lot of daylight, we're good to go, right? So then I'll go to Kelvin. and I'll dial in my color right then and there, because I'm gonna shoot this entire room and I'm not gonna worry about my color and exposure from that point on. I'm done, I don't chim it. I take my Polaroid, I don't chim it. And I often would suggest to you to go out and practice and try and shoot for an hour without looking at the LCD screen. It's gonna make you see better with your eyes. Instead of shooting the picture, which I see 90% of people do, and then they look at the back of the camera to see what they got. I know what I'm gonna get. This is my camera, not this. This is just a device to capture what I see, to create, right? So try using the camera just to be a Polaroid to get your test shot, and go out and practice, because it's gonna force you to be better at seeing exposure and seeing color. Is it plugged in, this one? Yeah? Go. Oh, cool. Let's see what we get. So any questions so far?
Sure.
Yes, sir. Go ahead and bait me, Dave.
What's that?
Go ahead and bait me.
Say the light in this room. When you're in the front of the room, that LED is going to be the predominant light on you.
Yep.
And as you move more towards the back of the room, that fluorescent light is going to be more predominant light.
Correct.
So, where are you taking the light balance speed from?
Why?
I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
isn't that
yeah,
going to
yeah.
change it?
Yeah, it sure is.
So,
It sure is. And that's why I go into an environment ahead of time, and I would already have that in my head. I know what my light is there, I know what my light is back here. And I would,
readings.
yeah, and if I was going to be photographing someone back by that light, so 9 times out of 10 I'd light this room, right? I would put 3 speed lights up in here, no on-camera flash, and I would create what I call a triangle of light. And then I would filter those speed lights to match the predominant light source in the room. That way I'm an available light photographer. I'm using not only my speed lights, but all the light in the environment available to me. That way my speed lights are not overlighting the room, they're just complementing the light, allowing me to have some highlight. Oh yeah, let's turn it on and see what's at. So yeah, I try and go for the dominant light source and match that. And then if we're also in this dirty light scenario, I might not even worry about the other light, and sometimes go for a creative effect, let the color shift. I call it dirty light, right? So you have that color shift, and you can let it go.
So as you're following Brian's room, because if Brian moves to the room, you're not going to be playing with the Kelvin.
No, I do.
You do.
But like I said, I have that in my head already. And it's really not that complicated, because I'm not that complicated of a person. So I'll just say, if I'm back there, I know I'm in tungsten. If I'm up there, I know I'm in daylight or whatever. And I just keep that in my head, and I'll switch really pretty quickly. You might say, why go through that trouble? Other way. Okay. Just pull up some images. Yeah, why go through that trouble? Because with RAW, color is a throwaway. Meaning you could change the file in color and really not degrade the image. Where if you are trying, even though you can shoot at 64,000 crazy high, whatever ISO in here, right? It's not good, pretty light, okay? So still go for the best possible quality image. And that being said too, 6400 looks great if it is properly exposed. If you underexpose that image, and you try and remember 0 is 0, and you try and open up an image that's too dark, in RAW, you're going to add tons of noise. It's going to look like crap, right? So that's why I believe if you're shooting RAW, it's like shooting color negative film. So tend to shoot to the right, meaning you expose for the highlights and develop for the shadows, okay? Because with RAW, you could go almost 2 steps to the right. Now, I'm not saying use that as a crutch. What I'm saying is expose for the shadows to make sure you have detail in the shadow area. You could always bring the highlights back down. We used to do it with film all the time. You would expose for the highlights and develop for the shadows. Because remember, even in the darkened days, if there was no information in the shadows and you try and put some, it gets muddy. You start getting a lot of grain. Same thing with digital. It gets muddy. You start getting a lot of noise and the image will break down. Right? Don't rely on software. All right, we'll go right through these images. And again, if you want to see metadata, I'm happy to share it with you. If you want to know how it was done, I'm happy to share all that I do. And again, it's not that contrasty, it's not that dark, right? I hate to make excuses, you know, because like my editor at the Sun-Times used to say, you know, we don't publish excuses here, so come back with a good image or don't come back at all. You know, and I really tried to embrace that my entire career. So these images were done on an engagement session. And again, it's about color, it's about light. I don't care if you use speedlights, fluorescent lights, daylight, reflectors. We cannot practice our craft without light, right? So I go for quality of light, not quantity of light. Speedlights work for me because 90% of everything I do is on location. They travel well, they listen to me, they do exactly what I say. You know, assistants with off-camera video lights, they're not quite always there, although my son's getting better at it. And I like those kind of lights, but it's hard to always get the light where you want it because they start drifting and they're looking off somewhere else. You know, the light's not on their face. You know, it gets frustrating. With the speed light, I park it on a light stand and say, stay there, and it works. High-speed flash sync is probably one of the most underutilized features that we have, and that's one of the reasons I love Speedlights, is because I don't need to have an assistant with a Honda generator and a Pro Photo pack outside shooting at f22 to try and get a sky, to try and get a blue sky. I could use two options. Speedlights with high-speed flash sync. And high-speed flash sync, what it is for Canon, Nikon, pretty much all cameras, it allows the camera and the flash to sync up at any shutter speed the camera is capable of shooting at, right? So write this down and commit this to memory. Shutter speed is equal to ambient light. Aperture is equal to the output from the flash. No matter what, whether we're inside, outside, no matter what. Shutter speed does not affect flash. Everybody say it? Shutter speed does not affect flash. Correct. The only time it will affect the flash is if you do not have that high-speed flash sync engaged and you shoot a frame above 2/50th of a second, you're going to get a black bar across your frame. Nowadays, with speedlights, they won't even do that because the cameras are so intelligent. Either A, it won't go above the shutter speed, or with Nikon, with Auto FP, it's just going to kick in anyways if you have it set so you can't make a mistake. Again, technology is getting better and better. In this scenario, though, these are big lights. This is a mix of Canon and Quantities. And they're all controlled and fired from my camera by using a radio power, right? So I can control all the lights. I can tell some to be manual mode and get the exposure that I want. This couple wanted the feeling that they were getting off their private jet. There is a bit of a red carpet there. And that the paparazzi was there, right? I'm like, well, I don't have a bunch of photographer friends that are going to come out with their cameras unless you're going to pay them. So they didn't want to pay him, so we did the next best thing and set up. Light, no light. And again, this is terrible. All right, available light is what everybody shoots, what everybody gets, and you know, it's okay, it's fine, it's nice, but I wanted something with a little bit more sparkle to it. So I put a speed light in the airplane, and I had a couple speed lights outside. And again, I'm always checking the histogram, right? 0, highlights, information, left to right. Yes, this is verging on a high key image. There's a lot of highlight tones. So it is correct. The color is as perfect as you're going to get it in camera. You're not going to get it any better, right? So I strive to get that at the time of capture. So when you're outside, and wow, you know, that's really terrible, right? Bill, you got to get Canon to like contribute a projector, Mr. Skinner. Don't need a projector for these things. That's calibrated. So it really detracts when you don't have good image quality or a group of photographers.
I told Goka where to get it from, and he didn't listen to me.
Okay, I got to beat you up on this. I'm sorry. I got to beat you up on this.
Well, look him up.
All right. But if you look at the metadata here, here's what's important, right? So you have that little pointer, Gokhan? You have the little pointer? I gave you? So this is one of those scenarios that we all find ourselves in, is you want a blue sky. So if you pull out your incident light meter, which I still use, you take a meter reading, you're getting the light that's falling on the subject and on the car. You're going to get a great exposure on the subject. What's going to happen to your sky? It's going to be washed out, right? The only way to get that magazine quality look is 2 times a day, the golden hour light in the morning and the golden hour light in the afternoon, right? I deal with real people, I'm not dealing with models. They're not there at the golden hour, right? I have to shoot when they're ready, when things are available. This was, you know, 6, that was a modification time. So that's right. Anyways, this was about 2, 3 in the afternoon, right? So really ugly high overhead light. Oftentimes I gang up or group speedlights. So in this particular scenario, I use 3 speedlights together acting as one. So put them all in the same group. You know, with speedlights, in order to communicate, they all have to speak the same language. And then you could put them, now with Canon, into 5 different groups, A, B, C, D, and E. That way you could vary the output of the light right from your camera. Really powerful. But the key is, and this is where I'll get a phone call on Saturday night when someone says, hey Bob, I got all my speedlights up and nothing's working, what do I do? Put them away, right? You don't need to practice on game day like an athlete. You need to own that and be really confident that it's gonna work. Otherwise you're not serving your clients. You're worried about the gear and not getting the moment, right? So aside from that, read your manual, right? Lots of great information. Yes, sir.
Quickly, are you shaping your lights when you're making these pictures? Because I see here that you're using, you know, a lot of flash diffusers right on top of the flash. But do you take the time to shape the lights, say like an engagement shoot like this?
Yes.
And even I saw that you had the grid on the boulevard, quick thing in wedding. But do you make time to shape the light? You know, with modifiers?
I do. But right modifier for the right time of day with speedlights, okay? 3 of them, let's call this high noon light. If I put them into an umbrella or any type of light modifier like that, I'm still only at 150 watts because each speedlight is roughly 50 watt seconds, 50 to 60 watt seconds. That's not a lot of power. So if I start taking energy away by running them through a light modifier at this time of day, not gonna get much light output, right? So the reason I'm using 3 is, 1, I get more output, and I get a faster recycle time because the 3 act as 1. So I'm using high-speed flashing, so I'm at 25/100th of a second, and an aperture of 5.6. I'm using all the light that's available to me. So what I mean by that is I'm underexposing the sky by almost 2 stops. The car is so flippin' bright that it's being lit by the sun. It's yellow, so it's gonna look really cool. It's gonna look even better a little underexposed, right? Because you're gonna get all the detail in the yellow and the color's gonna be rich. But I wanted that blue sky. He's in a white Chanel suit, right? Matching his fiancée. He was the diva, not her. He rented the car, he wanted the airplane, the whole 9 yards. He bought the matching Chanel suits. So it's a white suit with a black shirt. And trust me, if you want to come and look at my monitor here, there is detail in the suit, there is detail in the shirt. And the only way to achieve that at this time of day is with Leggings. So again, you could haul out some pro photos and a power pack and everything else. Now that you'd be able to get an umbrella and shape the light even better, soften it, because you're getting about 2,000 watt seconds. Here, it's just me. So I put my light stand out there with 3 speed lights on it, and then I run back with my 70 to 200, I frame it up, I lay on the ground to clean up all the environment in the background, to hide it, and then the speed lights are literally right outside the camera frame here, shining on him. Because the light will not travel that far. So it doesn't matter where I'm at. What it matters is it goes back to the simple physics of light to distance ratio. So the closer the light is to the subject, the more effective it's going to be. I could be anywhere, especially with today's radio technology, meaning radio poppers, and you know, if you feel lucky, you could try the Pocket Wizard. I'm only going to tell you what works, and radial poppers work. The Canon 600 EXRTs work. The radial poppers, flip a coin. We'll see what comes out, right? They're not consistent. They haven't been from day one. Even still with Nikon, they will not consistently deliver. I have 90% consistency all the time. The only time I get a little wonky with my radios is when the batteries start going, but otherwise they work. So again, I lit it. Yeah, you're going to have the color spectrum kind of all over the place with your histogram because you have a large amount of blue sky. We had the tarmac on a runway, which is very warm. The car is very yellow. There's greenery back here. It's all trees and bushes. So that's pretty indicative, the histogram. But I have information from left to right, no gaps. If I had a gap on the left, that would mean I did not have information in my shadow details. So I need to cut back the exposure. Right. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
So, I know you occasionally use TTL, but...
Oh, pretty much 90% of everything I shoot with flash is manual mode on the camera, TTL on flash.
Okay, do you occasionally just go manual on the flash?
Sure.
Is there kind of a ratio or formula that you usually follow to get from flash to subject as far as power?
Sure, so let's address your question. Basically, you're asking, how often do I shoot in ETTL, and then when I go to manual, is there a particular ratio that I follow? No, there is no recipe here. This isn't the days of Hasselblad where we're shooting 2¼ 200 ISO film, everything is 2/50th at f8. I don't care if you're inside, outside, all you do is change the film. They used to lock the cameras down. You couldn't change the aperture and you couldn't change the shutter speed. It's 2/50th or 500 at f8, you just change the film. And I shot everything with a flash manual, pretty much full power. Color negative film, you didn't worry about it. Now we're back in the world of slide film with JPEG and digital because the exposure latitude is smaller. So you have to be better with your exposures. So I let every scene speak to me, right? When I'm doing the formals, here, I'll pull up a couple so you can see, I go manual, right? The reason being is I'm not moving, the subjects aren't moving. I want that flash exposure completely locked down. What TTL does is it emits a pre-flash, and that pre-flash takes into account all the tones. So it works off of reflectance. So if you have a bunch of light tones, you may get a dark image, right? Because the camera emits the pre-flash, it bounces off the white tonalities, the light tonalities, and then it wants to underexpose it because the camera works off of 18% gray. So it's going to want to get everything to 18% gray. So when you're dealing with light tonalities, and if you're in ETTL, you're going to have to outthink it. Meaning, I know I need more light from you, so use flash exposure compensation to kick it up. As these tonalities, or as you shift around with your framing, each exposure is going to be different. Because ETTL is trying to match the environment with the tonalities and everything else, and you're going to get a different exposure. So when I do my formals, or I do portraits, or things like that, it's pretty much all manual, because then my light is just continuous. If I set it at half power, it's half power, and it doesn't care if there is a dark tonality or a light tonality. Same way at ETTL, if I'm walking around in the cocktail hour photographing people, I may underexpose it. I may go -2. Because if you're in a dark environment like this, and dark suits and things like that, I want the suits to stay black. I don't want them to go gray. And ETTL is going to try and overexpose the darks, right? So that's something to learn and to think about. Pop back up here for a second. Yes, sir?
Can you talk about the production of, getting something together like this? Like, this is, very high end, and I imagine most people don't have access to the types of production that you put together for the engagement. Could you just quickly run through how do you set that production up
Sure.
so that you get to shoot?
Well, it starts from the very first consultation with the couple. I listen. It goes back to my journalism days. I listen. My wife Dawn and I go on sales meetings and I listen. And I ask questions. And I found out that he is a bit of a diva. He's into fashion and he's into expensive things, right? And then he kept saying that it would be cool, like we're celebrities in the paparazzi. So I then further talked to him. Bianca was a romantic. She wanted her pictures here in the Arboretum. He wanted the car, which he rented. He wanted the airport, you know, like the private jet. So I'm like, okay, dude, I'll run with this, man. My imagination starts going. So I call up Joe about a month before the engagement shoot, and I'm like, so let's flush out your ideas a little bit further. You are envisioning, you know, you guys are high rollers, and his dad owns a lot of Castle car dealerships, so they're wealthy. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, okay. He's like, I'd love to be getting off a private jet. I'm like, well, yeah, we could go out to Schaumburg Airport. I have some connections there. We could just rent some time. They have a jet that's not being flown, so there's no rental fee on the jet. And he's like, cool, I'm gonna rent an exotic sports car. We'll have time out at the airport. So all that production is on his end to get the props. They got the suits, they got some vintage luggage, they had, you know, different outfit changes, so they brought all that. All I did was find the locations, and then brought a ton of Speedlights. I've got 6 580s, I've got 6 600 XRTs, and I've got 4 Quantums. So the only thing that doesn't play now is the 600 XRTs, right? They will communicate line of sight with the old system. But I don't like working with line of sight because if you're not perfectly aligned with everything, they're not going to always fire, especially in outside situations. So radio poppers have been unbelievable because I've been able to control my Quantums and my Canons all from cameras combined. Radio popper is not given a firmware update yet for the 600s, which they soon will. That way I can use the line of sight and use all those lights together, right, at a certain point in time. Currently, with Canon's radio functionality, it's going to be a long time before anybody is going to be able to encroach or complement that. For one, it's going to be locked up with patents, and 2, it's very complicated technology because there is back and forth communication constantly between the camera and the remote lights. You know if it's recycled, ready to go, all those other things. So there's lots of communication going on back and forth. That radio popper is just one-way communication. Yes. No.
You talk about the production outside of
time. Sure.
So like you brought lights, you got the
I did.
you got the equipment there. You know, we got these great clothes. You know.
Then it's up to me to compose the image.
How do you house them on the set?
Mm-hmm.
Makeup artists, stylists. You know, those intangibles. You know, that make the shot.
Sure.
Not necessarily seen.
Sure. I have a makeup and hairstylist that I work with, that I offer. And again, that's up to the comfort level of each and every client. She actually did a practice run through, which we suggest oftentimes, on your hair and makeup for your engagement session. Right? Because then she'll get a good idea of how she's going to look come wedding day. If she's not going to go that route, I'll offer ours. Right? So that's done. And I bring a slew of lighting modifiers with me. I kind of really like the Westcott Apollo Halo line. The reason being is I don't need a speed ring. Now before they came out with those lines, there was a thing called a strobe slipper, which was created by Bruce Dorn, IDC. So it'll allow you to use speed lights with studio light modifiers, which I've used. Octabanks, I have a 7-foot parabolic umbrella that I just absolutely love the quality of light for, but I use speed lights with it, right? With the Westcott Apollo and Halo line, everything is off an umbrella shaft. You don't need a speed ring. So setup and location stuff is very quick. It's a snap. Just pop the umbrella, put it in the umbrella adapter, and you can get excellent quality of light anywhere, right? So I have medium softbox, Halo, which is like a shoot-through umbrella. They have the Orb, which is like an Octabank that I use, you know. And then I use Rogue flash benders for snoops and things, and the Rogue grids. And then I have the Gary Fong light spheres, which I use once I get to the reception, because I don't want a big light modifier going off at the reception, detracting, you know, drawing attention away from the ambient light that's there. So in a scene like this, we arrived late because Joe was having all kinds of fun at the airport. And the sun had already set behind the trees. So as the sun is setting, you've still got almost 45 minutes of time to shoot. And even after the sun is set below the horizon, you still got another good 20 to 30 minutes, and again, using the power of the ISO. So when we first pulled up here, the sun was shining through the trees, and I saw this shaft of light. I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect, run and get into that light. But she had to do a dress change, right? And he put jeans on and still kept the white jacket. So that light was gone. So again, going back to never publishing an excuse, I created the light. The sun has gone behind the trees, so we have some light in the sky. But that beautiful shaft of light is gone. So by empowering the Speedlights, and again with the radio trigger because they're pretty far away, I use the snoot to create the shaft of light just shining down on the grass right here. Okay, I make the snoot as small as possible. I underexpose, again, the ambient by a good full stop. So 200th of a second shutter speed at f4, 500 ISO, right? And then I'm using Kelvin to warm up the scene a little bit. So I'm upwards about 7,000 degrees Kelvin. So I'm getting that sunset feel from my light. Don't even have to gel the strobes when you start using Kelvin. You could go the other route and put maybe a quarter CTO, but I don't always, like I said, have an assistant running around doing that. Time is going by fast, so Speedlights are really quick and I just use Kelvin. The second Speedlight is to put the light on them. So I had to have them staggered. Why? Why did I stagger them?
So she would catch light.
Catch lights and shadows. Because if they were in perfect alignment with my Speedlight, she would cast the shadow on him, right? So I'm like a dog with a bone, seeing light and seeing color, right? So I saw the natural light, how it works, and I just try and mimic that and complement it, right? Getting the light where you want it. You know, this is another great thing with radio triggers. You know, and not only, here, let me open up. Okay. Go back here for a second. This was safety contrast. So I had a little bit better success doing this with radio poppers because I got up to the 100-foot range with Canon really quick, and then with the Speedlight being in the car, even cuts down your range a little bit more. So this shoot was done with radio poppers. Right? So I'm shooting from the sunroof of my car, my assistant's driving, and it's ETTL with the flash in the car, and we get the light where we want it, right? Even showing a slow shutter speed to get that pan effect, that's in camera, that's not post-production. So the ugly sodium mercury vapor lights on the streets, I just let it go to where it was. But we have a neutral light in the car, and then I put my Kelvin around 4,500 degrees. It's somewhere in the middle, so that's why the flash is beginning to get a little bit blue, right? Because I didn't have tones. What's that?
It actually works because they, you know, contrast.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But my ISO is 1250, 15th of a second, right? And this is just looking cool.
With adding the light inside the car, is that how you're still getting? Because you were at a 15th of a second, so is that how you're still getting?
They will
like
be frozen. They are, yes.
Right.
The flash would freeze down, but the 15th of a second is so we have the race car zoom, right? Instead of doing it in post. So this is with the radio poppers, and now this one is in Italy, driving before sunset with a 600 XRT in the car. Same principle, right? Only I'm now using a 70 to 200. I put the flash in the car to put light on their faces because the light, the natural light, is coming from here. And again, I'm using Kelvin to really warm up the scene. And I had them ahead of time turn the headlights on the car because I'm thinking I want some light there. Because it would look a little funny to me if there wasn't light in the headlights, right? This is right as the sun is setting. So it's fine, get the light where you want it. So same thing, light in the car. I'm shooting from the back of a van with the 70 to 200. And this is the only time I ran into a situation with the 600s where I had to keep waiting to come closer. I wanted to shoot with the 200 as much as possible to compress the space, but I was quickly running to that point to where the flash wouldn't communicate because you only have 100 feet. Now I used the 600 XRTs up to 350 feet outside unobstructed. Here the flash is in the car, so it's surrounded by a lot of metal, so that really kept me confined to about that 100 feet. Right? So that's one of the differences between the radio poppers and the 600. Same thing, there's no light coming through the windshield. There's a flash in the front. It's getting the light where you want it, right? And it's dialing in the color to make sure you've got it where you want it. Same thing here. There was no cool shadow of a window coming through. This is a mix using the daylight coming in from here. And there was a big spinning wheel just to camera right. So I shined the flash through it to create a shadow for a little bit of drama. You know, of course I shoot some with, some without, you know, just for fun. And again, it's not dark. But, you know, it's just taking a place and adding light and creating some drama and just having fun with it, you know? Yes?
Just curious, you've been showing mostly color photos, but these black and whites, I'm curious if you can tell us your thought process and what, you know, what makes a photo more appropriate for black and white than for color? I mean, what are the visual cues that you're looking for?
For me, yeah, what makes something a black and white image versus a color image? I try and go for black and white to make it a moment, you know, versus if there's a lot of color in the image and the color is really pretty and attractive, I'll use the color. If there isn't, I will use black and white. When I shot this image, I shot it in color, but then composed, I said, you know what, this really, the scenario was vintage. The scenario was World War II. We got the World War II aircraft, we went out to Chakra Airport again. These guys brought in their old airplanes, and I shot speed graphics with 4x5 film with the flash bulbs. So again, you shot everything with a flash, and it had this look, this quality, and this feel. So while I lit it with the Speedlights in color, and there was a ton of amazing, beautiful color, to me it felt black and white. I was thinking 1940s, I was thinking vintage. So I like the black and whites.
Did you use NIC software or any type of...
No, this is just aperture, using aperture. Yep.
Yeah, I see this guy just pulling in a lot more.
I just put a little bit of red, the red filter, on the, and it's a warm tone black and white recipe that I created, and then you use the red filter and it brings a bit of the sky out more, the contrast of the sky.
Do you use your camera light meter or do you use external light meters?
I use the histogram. Okay, so I do use an external light meter, an incident light meter, especially if I want something high key, right? If I'm looking to get something high key, I've got something here, where's that? I'll use the incident light meter. Because sometimes, or I'll use live view. Live view lets me get dialed right in. And I'll use the instant light meter as a starting point, and then I'll check my histograms. Again, I always will check my histogram for color and exposure. But I mean, these are all fun scenarios where using light and color to your advantage. Right? This was at a trade show, and just playing with speedlights. This is all line of sight. Pop them out in manual mode. I mean, this would even be fun at a wedding for a bride and groom, have them hold your extra lights, and it just takes it to a different level, have a little bit of fun, a little bit of dynamic. Creating shadows, again, same principle as that other image. Have someone stand off to the side, cast a light, all with speedlights. So this is a senior shoot, and this was in my studio, right? And again, you can't publish an excuse. So this is how light can change. This is actually more gray than red. It's white paper, but one Apollo softbox with one speed light in it still gives you beautiful quality of light, right? So the paper gets gray if you're only lighting the subject, because the fall off becomes the shadow area and it becomes gray. The minute you throw some lights on the background paper, and my goal is to have a one-stop difference between the background and the actual subject. And if you go any higher than that, your image is going to get milky, kind of soft, right? Because you're overexposing the background. Add a fan, some music, you know, and you could have a studio anywhere, and that's where I shot it, right? Get yourself some Home Depot white tile board. It gives you a nice glossy floor for about $12. You you know, $12 a sheet. And then there's that big parabolic reflector that I love, the Westcott 7-foot parabolic reflector that has silver inside because it makes the most efficient use of the speed light. And then you can get a big, they make a diffuser sheet that goes over it. So that thing is tremendously useful. Right? One speed light. So this is just a total of 2 speed lights on the background and 1 speed light in the parabolic. Right?
Is that with the aperture open?
With it wide open?
Wide open?
No, 5.6.
Well, I mean, yeah, 5.6 is good because like.
Yeah, if you shoot this at 2, for me, this is me. I want this to be in focus. This is a portrait. I want her eyes or ears to be in focus.
Well, it's not me. I'm not asking because of the subject. I'm asking because of the parabolic, because of that speed light. You know, even if you put it at full power, going, you know, close it down too much kills the ability of the parabolic. So that's
remember the power of the ISO. It is now a variable that you can use from frame to frame to frame. And if I needed that parabolic to be f16, maybe I'm at 1250 ISO, and the image is still going to look incredible, right? Even on wedding day and on location, you know, you can shoot details, fantastic details. This is just in a hotel room at the Ritz-Carlton, right? So it's 2 speed lights, lighting up the wall, same principle. 1 dairy farm lights here in the foreground. This is a glass desktop that I just took everything off the desk in the hotel room, moved it about 3 feet away from the wall. Now all of a sudden we have an infinity sight because you're lighting the wall and that edge just disappears. Right? So it's about color, it's about light, anywhere you want. Right? So here's one other really quick thing. So these 2 speed lights were in manual mode. Now, here, how many people have still Canon 580s and EX2s? Yeah, quite a few. So I love my backlights or my background lights to be in manual mode. It gives me the ability to make that background white. Or you're all manual, right? But oftentimes when you're shooting details and things, it's pretty much on the fly. So I combine ETTL and manual mode. Nikon's been able to do it for years line of sight. You'd be able to put any flash in any group in any mode right from the master. Canon, you were either all ETTL or you were all in manual mode, right? But I found by playing and pushing the buttons that you can force a remote speed light, a slave speed light, into manual mode. So if it's a 550, a 580, 580X2, if you push and hold the mode button for 1, 2, 3, it'll drop out of ETTL and go to manual. Now you can mix ETTL and manual. But remember, your manual flash, you have to dial in the power you want. You can't adjust it from camera like you can if you were all manual. But your ETTL will treat those just as a continuous light source, and therefore your front light will fill in accordingly as ETTL, very quick, very easy, right? So with the new 600D XRTs, that's not a problem because there again, you could put any flash in any mode, in any group, and turn them on and off right from camera. Right, so it's kind of a game changer. Because if you shoot into ETTL and you're shooting into your backlight and the camera says, oh, that's too bright, too much light, it quenches the entire system. So your flashes will not give you the light output you want. So yeah, you could get lights, you know, anywhere. I mean, that's just one flash over on Oak Street, full CTO gel, right behind him. It was a cold winter night, you know, just have a fun. I mean, digital has just been amazing what you can do and the risks you can take because you can do anything you want and see the image and tweak it right there.
Bob, I have a question about
Yes.
older Conway flashes.
About what?
I think it's Conway, the Conway flashes, I've never been able to pronounce it. But I just thought about it because you were talking about how Canons talk. Is there something that you can do for, like, say, an older flash? Like when I bought my 7D, it talks to my old Rebel, but the flash would not talk to my 7D. I can't even get the flash to pop off. Is there something that you can do?
Which flash?
It's an older Quanray flash.
Quanray? Yeah, I've never used them, so I don't know.
Yeah, but you seem to be, you know a lot about these flashes and how they work. But it worked on an old rubber one because it was a Canon mount flash. I put it on my 7D and it was like, no.
Right, because the technology in the 7D is far more advanced than it's in the Quanray.
Quanray, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but you can still use it if you get a dumb trigger. Meaning, again, I just happen to like radio poppers, but there's all kinds of dumb triggers out there, meaning a $29 trigger. The only problem is with the 7D is if you put something in the hot shoe, it deactivates the pop-up flash. Even though it may be up, it will not fire. So you'd have to plug it in the PC sync.
okay.
And then you'd be able to fire that flash and use your either
But I'll never
hot.
be able to put it on my hot shoe. It will never work on my hot shoe.
I don't know about never. And you'd have to check with Quanray, see if there's an adapter, see if there's a modification.
Okay.
Something like
I
that.
can never pronounce that word.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And there is a difference between speedlights and flashes. That's why Nikon and Canon speedlights are $600, $500, or whatever, $100, is because you're paying for the groups, you're paying for high-speed flash sync, you're paying for rear curtain sync. A Vivitar 283 you could do half of that stuff with, and it's just a flash.
Yeah, it was an older one. I didn't really want to let it go. It felt bad that I had
You can still use it for light.
Yeah, just put it up. I have those triggers, so I'm putting on it for that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And just to piggyback on what you said, Calumet appreciate this, but their radial triggers, if you just need light, you just need to power it manually, get the Calumet triggers. They're affordable, they have a nice settings.
I was just talking more about the hot shoe. I was
Sure.
that, sometimes you can want it. I just could not figure out how I couldn't get it to work.
Sure. Yeah. 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 They made it just might not be compatible. Here's one of my. I just did this engagement shoot like 2 weeks ago. This is one of my favorite images. I love the beacon. You can probably see it. There's light going on. I mean, here again, it's just using the power of the ISO and the lights and color. Dialing a light. Yes. What? Yeah, I do use a battery pack. I not only use a battery pack, I use rechargeable batteries in them. And I found that the Maha 2700 milliamp batteries work really well. And I not only put them in the Speedlight, but I put them in the Canon or Nikon battery pack. I have used other brand batteries to power the Speedlights, and I've had trouble, meaning blowing the flash. Canon and Nikon are low voltage flashes, right? So if you overdrive them, you'll burn them out. And I've never burned a Speedlight recently because I use the Canon battery pack. The CPE4 is the Canon battery pack, and then the batteries are Maha, PowerX, MAHA by PowerX, 2700 milliamp. Yep. What's that?
We don't found them.
Yeah, antelopes are okay, but they don't have the high milliamps. They don't have the they're good. They have a longer shelf life. Antelopes, but they don't have the milliamps. The milliamps is allow you to keep on shooting. Canons inherently recycle slower than Nikons. It's just the way the capacitors are built, and I want that power there always. M-A-H.
What's the name of the company?
PowerX batteries. Thomas Distributing.
Yeah, quick question. You mentioned you use something from Home Depot for a floor.
Sure.
What is that?
Home Depot is a great place for a photographer to get all kinds of good stuff.
That's $12 I like that. What is it?
White tile board. It's glossy white, and it's tile board. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Yeah.
Okay, and so people sit on it, stand on it,
Whatever,
erect
sure.
it?
Yeah. And if you get 2 of them to make your floor 8 foot instead, because it's 4x8 sheets like plywood, just remember if you're shooting this way, if you overlap them, have the front one overlap the back so that seam disappears versus the front one over the back. Then you have the dark edge facing the camera. Do it the other way, and then you don't have an edge facing the
What
camera.
does Home Depot use them for? I never heard
Tile
of
board.
it. Tile board?
Yeah, you put it in the bathroom and you put tile on it.
Oh, okay. I thought that was your food board.
Home construction.
That's food board.
And no offense to Calumet, but the clamps at Home Depot are a whole lot cheaper than at home. Bunty balls, bungee cords, all kinds of great stuff.
Have you ever used that? So like, check your background?
I haven't, but yeah, there's all kinds of lights. So, thank you. I've got some party gifts if you want.